Hey guys, how's it going? Today I just want to talk about two of my favorite sports watches out in the market, and it's none other than the Vacheron Constantin Overseas and the Rolex Daytona. Um, well, let's just begin by saying that both watches are column wheel chronographs, and in terms of price, they are fairly similar. On the secondary market, the Rolex Daytona probably costs about, I'd say, around up to $2,000 more than the overseas chronograph for the first generation. And you know, I think in terms of watch, you just get a little bit more watch on the overseas chronograph. Both obviously are beautiful, beautiful chronographs. The overseas feature the Frederick Piguet 1185 movement, and of course, Rolex features its in-house movement. And both steel, screw-down pushers, and excellent watches. Really, really beautiful, beautiful, exquisite timepieces. Um, when I made this video, I initially wanted to talk about Vacheron Overseas' new line of chronographs and the new Overseas line in general. For those of you who don't know, they recently launched it in 2016, and yeah, what can I say? It now features a beautiful in-house movement. It looks sleek. It's a little bit big for my taste. I think they beefed it up to like 42.5 millimeters or something like that for the chronograph, and I just feel that it's just a little bit too big, a little too expensive. The Vacheron Overseas, you know, I think they really fucked this one up, big time, right? At a price tag of 28,900, well, almost 30,000 US dollars MSRP. It's no small amount of money, it's a lot. And it just tells me that they're trying to compete against the AP Royal Oak and the Patek Aquanaut, or maybe Nautilus, right? It's um, it's quite a shame because I think they were better off competing against high-end Rolex sports watches. I think they were a lot. I think they're just a lot more desirable as Rolex alternatives compared to Patek or AP alternatives. And it's just a little bit more, I don't know how to say it, it's just more desirable that way. But now that they are competing against Patek and AP in the luxury sports genre, sad to say, but they would always get picked last, simply because they are nowhere near in terms of prestige and provenance compared with those other two brands. But when they compete against Rolex's sports line, you're actually giving buyers a serious run for the money, and you know, I think they, I think they would have done a lot better. I think they should have kept the Frederick Piguet 1185 movement, and just alter the case and the bracelet. They didn't really need an in-house movement. I mean, Frederick Piguet is owned by the Richemont Group, uh, so is Vacheron Constantin, and therefore it's technically in-house, right? I don't know why they had to go and manufacture their own movement. Perhaps it was, perhaps this idea was conceived, maybe 5 years ago, where in-house movement was all the craze, right? But I think now, people are starting to realize the high cost of service and the high cost in general for in-house made movements. And I think majority of people don't really care as much for it to be in-house. I mean, as long as it's well made, well finished, and there's a high level of craftsmanship and you know detail and quality of material put into the movement, it doesn't have to be in-house, right? As long as it's handmade. Obviously, if it's like ETA 775, oh sorry, Valjoux 7750 or ETA movement, then that's a whole different story, right? But I think there's no shame in using a beautiful movement like the Freddie P 1185, and I think Vacheron is going to lose a lot of their market share to not only AP and Patek, but also to Rolex, right? Because when you're talking about the 10 to $15,000 price point, right? You go for like a modern Rolex, right? In the past, you could have gone for the Vacheron Overseas, but now at $10 to $15,000, you've got Rolex just dominates at that price point, right? And then at the $20 to $30,000 price point, AP and Patek will just dominate. So Vacheron is like in no man's land right now. I just see them as just stranded, and I think they're going to, they're going to experience a lot of disappointment with the new overseas lineup, right? So I don't know what to make of it, but I'm not very optimistic with Vacheron. They make a lot of good watches, right? Steeped in history. They've got many different models, like the Toledo, the Patrimony, the Historic. What else? Just of course all their guilloche dials, and right, they make everything, right? Grand Complication, but I think they really messed it up with the overseas, which had so much potential. I don't think they can go back. Well, maybe down the line they could, right? Because I'm sure they invested a lot of R&D in their new in-house movement. So, well, now that cost has been sunk, they can make future generations of overseas at maybe a lower price point, and perhaps come back down as an alternative to a Rolex sports watch. Because if you look at these two models here, I'd say they're priced pretty competitively, and you know what? I honestly prefer the overseas over to the Daytona. I know a lot of people will probably give me, will not agree, but I think a lot of people have owned this. Not many people have owned this overseas. I have them both. They're both beautiful, beautiful watches, right? It's just preference, but I don't know. I just feel a little bit more unique, a little more. I feel like I can be more of myself wearing the overseas, simply because not many people know what this is, right? I just fly under the radar. I can just be myself. I can make this my watch. Whereas with the Daytona, right, it's because of it being such a status symbol, such an icon, sometimes it cuts both ways, right? It can be a little bit, yeah, right? Sometimes you gotta just deal with a lot of misconceptions, you know. Same for the Submariner, same for the GMT. It's uh, it's a victim of its own success, sometimes, you know. Whereas you don't have that with the overseas chronograph. Not many people will know what this is. Right. So anyway, just my opinion on Vacheron and its sports watches. Thanks for watching. Please like, please subscribe.